Hi guys. Some of y'all asked me to look into the Mount St. Helens eruption where there was possible Bigfoot there. I think I found something. I think y'all are going to really enjoy this one. I dug deep. There was a lot to it. It's one of the longer ones that took me to find information on. I think it's going to be worth it, and I think y'all are going to enjoy it. I think it's going to reflect pretty much the same thing that we've been seeing. The way they hide things and the way they cover up things. It's just how they do it. I'm going to go ahead and, of course, you know the location is Mount St. Helens, but don't forget we got a live coming up this weekend. Don't miss it. The live event is on the Facebook page, and it is also in the community of the YouTube. So you can go there, click on it, and then click notify. I wouldn't trust it to completely notify you because it doesn't do that half the time. But you can click it just in case it might work, but I would make a note of it if you want to be there on the live. We're going to talk about some things I think is important. Does the moon phase affect the way they behave, and some other things. May 18th, 1980. The moon's not going to be relevant because the eruption is what caused all this, and I don't feel like the eruption and the moon would have had anything to do with it. If y'all think it does, y'all can post a moon phase in the comments. I just didn't see it paying attention to this. The victim in this one is actually going to be Bigfoot, which is the first time we're going to use Bigfoot as a victim. A 5.1 magnitude earthquake occurred at 8:32 a.m. There were a series of events that resulted from this earthquake. This large earthquake hit, and they said there was no warning. There were no, like, before or after or anything like that. It just happened, and when it happened immediately. So I'm guessing they were probably caught off guard. It happened at 8:32 a.m. in the morning, which is probably whenever they're going to sleep. You know, the reason it would catch them off guard is you would have the day watchers, but if most of them were asleep, they would have been caught, completely off guard. The volcano's northern bulge and summit slid away as a huge landslide. So the whole area right there that fell, it was just, it was like, it was a forest. And this forest, it just was gone. Just that fast. A whole forest slid and was gone. It says, the largest debris avalanche on Earth in recorded history happened in the blink of an eye. Small, dark, rich eruption plume rose directly from the base of the debris avalanche. Scarp and another form of summit crater rose to about 650 feet or 200 meters. The debris avalanche swept around and up ridges to the north, but most of it turned westward as far as 23 kilometers or 14 miles down the valley of the North Fork River and formed a deposit. The size of this slide and this deposit was 3.3 billion yards, or 1 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. No trees remained in what was once a densely wooded area that was not traveled or explored. See, they had their refuge right there, and all of a sudden this just happens. Reportedly found on the 105-mile-long Cowlitz River, hope I pronounced that right, in the Cascade Mountains. Now this is the part y'all's going to like, and I found some other things I think is going to back this, but a military Chinook helicopters were flown into the area and later exited with the corpses of several large hairy ape-like animals hanging from the nets, which would be cargo nets, strung beneath the helicopters. Their destination was unknown. In 2012, a former National Guardsman who stated he was on the site. This is what I found as I looked further into it. The guardsman stated during the recovery of the Bigfoot, it was an extensive secrecy. They were told not to make notes of it. They were told not to talk about it, take photos, or any other thing. He stated that not all of the retrieved Bigfoot were dead. Some were burned and injured, and a few critically so. This is the part right here is going to get pretty heavy for y'all. This got pretty heavy for me. I don't know. Y'all tell me what you think about this part. He stated that 1 to 2 unharmed Bigfoot helped guide military personnel to where the other injured giants were laying to receive first aid and to be helicoptered out in the cargo nets. These are documented area sightings by Bigfoot field researchers. Here's some photos that they found in this area. On May 9th, 2002, at approximately 3 p.m., a man and his buddy were headed toward Mount St. Helens area. He says, "I noticed something walking along the creek at an angle. I could see the space between its strides, and I knew it had to be bigger than a man. It had long arms and was dark colored. It was very large and took cover when it heard a vehicle." There's a lot of stuff going on even there today. Pretty active spot. News articles from Mount St. Helens archives originally printed in the Skamania County Pioneer, and here's the pics. I'll put those in there. Yeah, here's the articles. It says Bigfoot found, Bigfoot photos, and then I have something I want to read to y'all. I found this even going further, and I of course saved it. But it was deep. We had to go deep to find this stuff. I think y'all will enjoy this part, though. Get this over here so I can look at y'all. It says, as reported by the Mount St. Helens Area Valley Bugler newspaper, December of 2002, a thick, low mist covered the valley with a hint of a breeze rustling the dry leaves. The stillness and the silence was rather eerie. The birds weren't even singing. Hanging from the low branches of the Douglas trees were dew-covered spider webs, but the spiders weren't there. It was like all wildlife was hiding or gone. This fall has been an awesome spectacle of beauty. Bright blue skies with the leaves turning rather late in the season. Fall this year has been one of the warm weathers and the delightful views. Bright oranges, deep yellows, and evergreens have decorated the hillside with the early morning featuring of the low misty fog. See, I've noticed in the fall, even at my granny's, it was always worse. And a lot of people say that they migrate in the fall. And we're going to talk about that in live, and I'm going to tell you why I think that they don't migrate. I think they move, and I'll explain the differences that I think, why I think that, and I think y'all find that interesting. That was when the cows in the distant pasture started in their odd mooing. Normally, with the quiet and still morning, the cows can be heard in the distance with their normal noise. This morning, they let out a mournful cry that was different, very different. Walking outside, we thought maybe it was coyotes again. Those wily creatures often make local animals act a little strange, but never have they made the cattle give off such a sound. Listening, There were no coyote sounds. I've heard coyotes and stuff, they can sense when it's around. I've heard them do that around here. You can tell a difference if you've been around cows. Thinking again that it may be a bear or a cougar, we had spotted one cougar in our yard a couple of years ago, at dusk as we drove down our west driveway, that the winds through the trees. Our lights picked up a pair of the glowing eyes. We stopped, hit the brights, and there the glow was a small young golden cougar, looking at us. We watched a bit and turned and headed south to our property in the woods. We've never seen it again, but the cattle had made some strange noise that night also. So, see, I think that, like we talked on our other things, do people misidentify sometimes what they're seeing because of things they've seen, that they think may be causing? And I think that happens a lot. And we're going to talk about that too on the live. It says, we looked around our little 3 acres but saw nothing. Making sure the dogs were locked into the yard, we went about our morning duties. About noon, we wandered outside and were again greeted with the strange smell. With the sun high, we decided to walk around a bit and see if we could find what was giving off this terrible aroma. On the west side of the section of the tall grass and blackberry vines, with apple and plum trees on the edge, all of the fruit was ripe and ready to pick. Suddenly, something moved out of the apple trees, something big and hairy, peeking out from our vantage point by the shed. We saw something that made our blood run ice cold. About 8 feet tall, brown and big. It definitely was not a bear. It was much more human, but not a human. We sneaked a bit closer, by the hill that surrounds the pool. Peeking out from the ridge, whatever it was spotted us. It let out with an awful scream, and it took off towards the woods to the south. I ran to get my camera while my husband kept an eye on whatever it was. As I came out running, short of breath, he stood by the shed, pointing at the tall grass to the south, just before the tree line where the creature now ran. I focused the camera and hit a couple of shots while the creature made its way away from us. The speed which he ran was astounding. For such a big creature, his lumbering feet were pounding the ground while his arms swung in rhythmic sequence to the run. He was soon out of range for my zoom, making any more photography impossible, unless I wanted to follow, and I sure didn't. What it was, I'll leave you all to decide. One thing for sure, I'll note, I will not be wandering around in the woods by myself anymore, especially if I smell something like I did this fall morning. Like I said, in the fall, we're going to talk about smells in the live coming up and why we think that they may smell. There is a sketch that she kind of said that she thought that it looked like. I'll try to pull that off here and post it right now after this part of it. And then I found this other one. And this is the one where I had to really dig deep. And a buddy of mine that's an investigator, still an investigator at this time, he hasn't retired. He helped me find this, and he dug into the archives, and I'm going to go ahead and read it to you guys. The name has been redacted. Was a place in charge of one, this is at Mount St. Helens after the eruption, was placed in charge of one pile of dead animals in particular. The pile was covered, and no one was allowed to come near it. Armed U.S. National Guard personnel were guarding this pile. On the day that they were going to move this group of bodies, I want to give the name of one of the guys. Bradshaw was standing very close to the pile and was told to keep his mouth closed about what we was to witness. When the tarps were removed, he was amazed to see that the bodies were those of Sasquatch. Some badly burned and some not. They were placed in a large net and lifted into the back of the truck, which was then tarped over. You see, he's even matching what was said. There were no documented reports of Bigfoot or Sasquatch carcasses, and there were no projects to attempt to locate and or recover any bodies. They sent in a FOIA report. I'm going to go ahead and post that for y'all to see right now so you can take a look at it. Thought it was pretty interesting how they try to cover themselves. I thought this one was pretty interesting. You go through and read a lot more of them, and they're pretty much the same. Everybody saw them. They're still seeing them back then, see them today. They have to be there, I would think, or people wouldn't be seeing this many of them. There's a lot of documentations, a lot of FOIAs have been filed on it, and information's been redacted, reports have been redacted, and if you don't write them a certain way or even word your FOIA in a certain way, you're not going to get what you're looking for anyway, because they have loopholes and they know ways to get around of sending you what you need. So just in short of being an attorney, if you don't know how to write these, you're not going to get what you need. Hope you all enjoyed this one. Looking forward to the live with you all coming up this weekend. We got a lot to talk about. I hope to see you all there. It'll be 8 o'clock. Like I said, you can go find it on the Facebook page, or you can find it on the community part in the YouTube. You can click on it and also click notify. I would not trust it because YouTube hasn't been notifying people, but you can do that in case it does work, or you can write it down, make a note of it, or set an alarm. I appreciate you all watching. Until next time, keep your head on a swivel, and God bless.